Hello and welcome to my solo Tob maiden guide. Throughout this guide, I will be going over a few core principles that will help you consistently complete solo maiden with minimal tick loss and optimize supplies usage. After doing your pre-fire bow running up to boss, you want a one-way scythe so that you don't get drained as you spec her. After that scythe, you'll do a hammer and then back to T-bow, and then you can either immediately hammer 2 ticks after her auto, but you have to click the hammer and the defender and the spec bar and the maiden all within 2 ticks, or else you chance getting drained, or else you could chance getting drained like I did here, or you have to wait till next auto to hammer it, and it gives you a lot more time. After learning how to spec the boss, the next thing to learn is how to dodge blood. Best way to dodge blood is to go around the corner right as she's throwing it. If you lose 0 ticks from when you hammer, you're on a tick where as you do your second scythe relative to her attack, you run back around and click the T-bow and then run back around where you were, and this way you can just click to Narnia and then you click her so you stop moving and you don't have to worry about clicking on specific tiles. The reason you want to move around the corner in this manner is so that you only have to run 2 tiles. You're not running that far. You only have to run for that tick, and she'll never throw the random splat onto you. This maneuver only works where you're going from north to east or west, or from south to east or west. You cannot go the other direction around the corner, or else you do chance getting that third random splat on you. If you're not able to do this maneuver, you need to run for 2 entire ticks, or run and then walk, so that you're 3 tiles away from where you were last standing, or imagine that she's throwing blood in a 5x5 area where every single tile in that 5x5 area has blood. If you imagine it in that 5x5 idea, you'll never get blooded. This cycle will change if you happen to lose ticks, or if you happen to use your Crystal Halberd spec and change which tick you are on relative to maiden. You want to be ready to switch to your mage gear and freeze them if you're doing ancients. Notes on lunars in a later guide, and there are some instances where you'll freeze one crab, either 2 or 1, and then if there's only one other crab, which is a 4, you can run towards that crab. You're able to get a scythe off before you have to freeze it before it goes in, so you scythe the 4 once, and if you hit big, instead of freezing it, you actually just do another scythe, because freezing is actually quite bad DPS in general. It's much better if you're able to just kill the crab in 2 scythes without freezing it at all, but if you noodle on that scythe, you'll still freeze that 4. There are some instances in Maiden where if you get a 1 and a 2, or 2 2s, you want to freeze one of the red crabs, and then you want to chally the next crab, because, or scythe it, chally it if you have the spec, scythe it if you don't, because if you were to try and freeze it, you would just freeze the crab as it's next to the boss and not do any damage to it, and it would heal the boss anyways. You just lose 5 ticks. So you want to scythe the crab as it's walking in. You want to make sure that you're scything the crab while standing next to her, and if you do this, you're able to get a 3rd hit spot on maiden. In addition to being able to chally or scythe the crab as it's going in, sometimes when you get a 4 that you have frozen, if it's low health and you lose 0 ticks from a scythe proc, you want to wait for it to unfreeze and scythe it as it's walking next to the boss, because then that way you're able to scythe it the same tick it touches maiden, but your damage goes through because you have a melee weapon, and you get a 3rd hit splat from the scythe onto the boss, whereas normally you would only swing on the crab with 2 hit splats because it's a 2x2 NPC.
Now comes to the most important part of the guide. Essentially, this part of the guide goes over how to use the minimum amount of supplies in Maiden while maintaining maximum DPS. The most effective way to heal a Maiden is by using the prayer Redemption. Redemption is procced whenever you go below 10 HP, and heals you 24 HP, assuming you are at least 96 prayer and 91 hit points. When Maiden is attacking you, there is a projectile in the air, and it lands a few ticks after she throws it. While the projectile is in the air, you cannot click your locator orb. It will not damage you. So you cannot proc redemption as the projectile is coming towards you. And it also calculates whether or not you have mage prayer on when she starts the animation. So if you are below her max hit, which is displayed here, and within the range where you can proc redemption, so let's say her max hit's 18, you're at 17 HP, and she's thrown a projectile. You cannot locate her to proc that redemption, so you must use a divine range dose to do so. The much more optimal and sustainable strategy, instead of using divines, because not only do divines pop back cleave to the point where it's hard to get back to this other cycle, but also there is a limited number of extra divine doses you have, pretty much only 2 divine range doses that you can use before cutting into divine super combat or divine doses that you need for the other rooms. So the much better strategy is to watch her projectile. Let's say you're at 26 HP. You see that she throws it, and you flick redemption just in case she hits you that 17. If she doesn't hit you that 17, instead she hits a 16, now after the projectile you need to click the locator, proc the redemption, and then click a restore and get mage prayer back up for the next auto. Sometimes you have to rinse and repeat. If you do this method properly, and you leak 0 crabs, you can never get chanced by Maiden. But if you do this method and you do end up leaking at least even 1 crab, you will sometimes be at 20 HP. And in the scenario where you're at 20 HP, you are technically chanced by Maiden because you're not able to redemption from 20. You could theoretically double Locator, but then your redemption or your dose of restore would be healing you 4 HP, versus if you only have to Locator once to proc the redemption, you're getting 14 HP per dose of restore, which is only a little less than a brew. And the best part about it, though, is that this 14 HP doesn't lose you any ticks the way a shark would, and it doesn't lower your stats the way a brew would. It's a very effective use. And there are many times where she will just proc the redemption on her own, and then you get a full 24 HP per dose of restore. This redemption method will take time and effort to perfect, and I would highly recommend watching a raw full footage of my Maiden to fully understand it, as just these few clips may not be enough for you to learn. Thank you so much for watching the guide. Have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe. Good luck in your solo endeavors. Goodbye.